The great hall of the Galactic Council stood still, monumental and cathedral-like, as if carved by time itself. Thousands of sentient beings, each representing a different civilization from the known spiral arms, sat in spectral silence. A hush, heavier than the vacuum of space, pressed against every surface. Light from dying stars filtered through the cathedral's cosmic glass, casting long ribbons of shadow across the polished obsidian floor. At the heart of the chamber, a solitary figure moved forward. Ambassador Keth of the Alaran people walked with the careful gait of one burdened by knowledge. His cerulean skin shimmered faintly beneath the chamber's harsh lights, though it was clear the glow had faded since his last appearance. His hands trembled as he clutched a set of analog notes, primitive, yes, but uncorruptible. Behind him, silence held its breath. Up above, seated on a raised dais, General Vex observed. Towering in his red Zelkarian battle armor, he looked more statue than sentient. His bulk was matched only by the arrogance in his eyes that had watched 17 star systems fall to the might of his fleet. His officers, rows upon rows clad in blood-metallic plating, sat behind him like a wall of iron, barely concealing their boredom. What could a species like the Alarans, soft, exploratory, and historically unarmed, say that would matter to conquerors? Ambassador Keth cleared his throat. The sound was fragile but absolute. It echoed like a whisper across a dead planet. Members of the council, he began, his voice the sound of dust on stone, I come before you with a warning. A warning about a world you have chosen to forget, Earth. The name drifted into the room like a foreign object, familiar, but not fully processed. There were shifts in posture among the council. Earth. A planet on the outer edge of the Orion Arm, more rumor than reality. To most, it was background noise in the galactic broadcast. Its people barely scratched their moon. They argued over borders, still burned fossil fuels, and clung to ancient superstitions like children lost in a thunderstorm. Yet Keth continued. We sent 3 vessels to their system, he said. Not warships, exploration ships. Our best. Crewed by our finest minds. None have returned. From above, a deep, amused voice rumbled. General Vex leaned forward, a grin flickering across his crimson face. Are you implying, he drawled, that your vessels, Alaran vessels, were destroyed, by humans? The chamber shifted. Quiet laughter. A few audible scoffs. The idea was absurd. Earth, with its rusting satellites and nuclear toys, could hardly pose a threat to a garbage hauler, much less a battle-tested cruiser. But Keth didn't flinch. We sent more. This time, to observe. From a distance. No contact. He paused, scanning the faces before him. What they saw, made them flee. Counselor Zara of the vegan system leaned forward, crystalline tendrils swaying. What did they see? She asked, though her voice carried doubt. Keth's reply was barely above a whisper. Ships. Human ships. But not the kind their signals implied. These ships moved like ghosts. Appearing and vanishing without trace. Our sensors failed to track them. They outnumbered anything we had expected. The room fell into uneasy stillness. Even Vex narrowed his eyes. And we were not alone, Keth continued. 6 other species have approached Earth over the last cycle. Every one lost ships. Some lost crews. A few returned, but those who did refused to speak. He raised a hand, activating a small projection device. A hologram bloomed into the chamber like a flower of ruin. The first image showed a shattered fragment of what was clearly a Corran battle cruiser. Twisted metal adrift near Earth's moon. This was found by a civilian mining crew, Keth said. No survivors. No explanation. The next image was more disturbing, an intact Nexary science vessel in high orbit around Earth. No damage. But no lifeforms aboard. The crew had simply vanished. General Vex stood. His massive shadow fell like night across the council floor. These could be accidents, he barked. Space is chaos. Vessels are lost every cycle. Keth shook his head. Not 7 different species. Not all near the same world. This is a pattern. Not coincidence. A new figure approached, a wiry, gray-skinned being with disproportionately large eyes. Dr. Yule, of the Council's Scientific Division. Our scans show nothing, Yule said skeptically. Earth is a primitive civilization. No shields. No fusion weapons. No faster-than-light capability. They're still tied to gravity. I cannot explain how, Keth admitted. Only what has happened. He activated one final recording. A voice played, distorted, rough, but saturated with fear. Command, this is Captain Thex of the Seeker. We observed the human world as ordered. But something is wrong. Our sensors, they show structures buried beneath their cities. Energy emissions, off the charts. They know we're here. They're watching. The voice trembled. They are coming. Ships, impossible ships. They move like they're alive. We are leaving. Do not send anyone else here. Do not. The recording ended in static. The silence that followed was deeper than vacuum. General Vex's voice broke the spell. Even if true, he said, it proves nothing. One captain panicking in the dark. But Keth raised his head, and his voice turned solemn. General. I've stood here and given you truth. 7 species. 7 losses. Whatever the humans are, they are not what they seem. General Vex turned away. Earth sits on a valuable rim. Its resources are needed. We will investigate. With force. And with that, the matter was decided. Keth stood alone as the council adjourned. His warning echoed only in the silence of the chamber. Above, General Vex was already preparing the fleet. Earth would fall. Of this, he was certain. The Zelkarian fleet arrived in silence, like a shadow falling over a sleeping village. 3,000 warships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, an armada of arrogance, forged from conquest. The smallest of their vessels could blot out a city skyline. The largest, the Dominator, was so immense it had its own gravity well. A mobile world of metal and death. General Vex stood on the Dominator's bridge, his crimson armor now lit by the cold blue glow of Earth through the viewport. He gazed upon the planet as if it were prey. Below, swirls of white cloud covered continents of green and gold. On the dark side, cities glittered like embers. Vex narrowed his eyes. Scan the system, he ordered. Commander Krall, a 6-armed Zelkarian with scars across his upper set of eyes, worked the controls. Primitive satellites in low orbit, he said. Old communication arrays. A few chemical-fueled transport vessels. No threat detected. Vex gave a quiet, satisfied nod. This was what he expected. A species still learning how to crawl. What about planetary defenses, he asked. Krall hesitated. Basic missile systems. Nuclear technology, decades old. No shielding. No energy weapons. Their most advanced aircraft still rely on combustion engines. Vex turned to his officers, who were now watching with barely concealed amusement. Transmit the surrender protocol. A pulse of Zelkarian language encoded in all galactic frequencies was unleashed. People of Earth, you are now subjects of the Zelkarian Empire. Surrender immediately and your lives will be spared. Resistance will result in the destruction of your cities. The message was received in a room that did not exist, at least not on any official map. Dr. Lisa Grant sat at a control console surrounded by screens alive with movement. She didn't flinch at the broadcast. She had heard it before. Only the voice changed. The arrogance remained. Beside her stood Captain Jake Morrison, ex-Special Forces, no allegiance to any one flag, only to Earth. "They're using the Corin protocol," Lisa said, fingers gliding over the interface. Same message. Same confidence. Jake grinned, cold and quiet. And the same fate. He pressed a button. A short phrase echoed through every hidden bunker, hangar, and silo. All stations. Operation Mousetrap is active. I repeat, Operation Mousetrap is now active. Across Earth, the illusion broke. In empty office towers, walls slid back to reveal missile launchers. In forgotten subway tunnels, armored convoys rolled into position. What had looked like rural farmhouses now lit up with buried energy grids. Fighter jets, outdated only in appearance, screamed from hidden hangars. But they didn't behave like primitive aircraft. They moved like swallows dancing in a storm. Old silos launched nuclear warheads, but not to win. They were decoys. Above, the Zelkarian fleet began its bombardment. Vex watched with amusement as beams of annihilation rained down on Earth's cities. But what followed was confusion. "The blast zones are minimal," Krall reported. "Low structural damage. Casualties, almost none." Vex frowned. "How is that possible?" Krall's arms moved rapidly. "Sensors indicate evacuation. Entire cities, emptied. But we can't detect where the populations have gone." "Underground," Vex muttered. "Like vermin." He turned to the tactical officer. "Continue bombardment. Break them." Above the stratosphere, human fighters engaged. To Zelkarian eyes, they looked ancient, until they moved. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan led her squad into the upper atmosphere, drawing Zelkarian interceptors behind her like lures. Her aircraft twisted impossibly, pulling G-forces no biological pilot should survive. "Lead 3, you've got 2 on your 6, came the call. Kate replied with a calm, breaking left in 3, 2, 1. The human fighters scattered, not in chaos, but choreography. The Zelkarians followed, eager. Then it happened. Weapons that should have been ballistic began firing focused beams of energy. Zelkarian ships shattered, shields bypassed. 3 enemy fighters fell like broken toys. Back on the ground, Major Tom Bradley coordinated with tactical comm from the Denver command bunker. Sector 7 is clear. Civilians in bunkers. Defense grid online. Similar confirmations echoed from London. Tokyo. Moscow. Lagos. Earth hadn't been invaded. It had been waiting. From the void, human ships emerged, not from Earth, but from silence itself. They arrived not from hangars, but from folded shadows, phasing in like memories long forgotten. New contacts. Krall shouted. Unknown origin. "They're using cloaking we can't break." "Sir," he stopped. The battlefield was changing too fast. The newcomers were not civilian transports. They were warships, sleek, dark, quiet as death. Their weapons moved with intention. When they fired, Zelkarian vessels simply ceased to exist. On the bridge of the human ship Phantom, Commander Alex Rivera stood composed. "Target the engine section. No wreckage, we want prisoners." A single burst. A destroyer was dead in the water. Across the system, other human ships did the same. They hunted. Not with desperation, but discipline. As if this battle had already been fought in simulations, thousands of times. On the Dominator, alarms screamed. "Status?" Vex barked. 300 ships destroyed, came the reply. "In under an hour." "This isn't possible." Vex roared. "Where are they getting these ships?" "This coordination," Krall turned slowly from his console. "Sir, they're using modified Zelkarian tech." That hit like a blow. On the Phantom, Rivera received the location of the Dominator. He nodded to his boarding party. "It's time." Captain Zay of the Zelkarian infantry led his squad into New York. What they found was not resistance. It was nothing. Times Square glowed with advertisements. But there were no people. No noise. Just an eerie silence and structures untouched by war. "Command, this is Squad 7. The city is abandoned." Across the globe, identical reports came in. Empty cities. Empty roads. But, not abandoned. Watched. Back on the Dominator, a transmission came through, unauthorized, untraceable. The screen flickered, revealing a human face. Calm. Measured. "My name is Director Peter Kane of the Earth Defense Council. I believe we need to talk." General Vex stood frozen. "You were ready for us," he said, voice hollow. "You were warned," Kane replied. The war had ended before it began. General Vex sat in a containment chamber deep below Earth's crust, surrounded by walls that pulsed faintly with unknown energies. It was not a prison, at least, not one by appearance. He had books. Art. Soft music played on a loop. And always, there were human guards. Quiet. Respectful. Watching. He had been captured without a single shot fired in his defense. Dr. Lisa Grant entered with a gentle nod and a steaming cup of tea. She had been debriefing the general for weeks, and the lines under her eyes told stories of her own exhaustion. But today felt different. "General," she said softly, "today I'd like to tell you the truth. All of it." Vex looked up from where he sat, no longer armored, no longer proud. Just, tired. "You've already shown me what your species is capable of," he said. "What more could there be?" Lisa tapped her tablet, and a hologram unfurled between them. Not a tactical map. Not battle footage. A star map. But not as it existed today. "This," she said, "is the galaxy as it was 50,000 years ago." She pointed to a dense region near the galactic core. "This," she said, "was our original home." Vex leaned forward. He felt the cold trickle of disbelief run through him. Impossible. Every record shows humanity emerging on Earth. Lisa met his gaze. "Your records are wrong. Earth is not our origin. It is our exile." The projection shifted, showing images too old to have survived time. Fleets of massive human ships. Systems colonized. Battles fought. 50,000 years ago, humanity controlled 12 systems. We were explorers. Warriors. Scholars. And then, we met the architects. They were a species unlike any other, ancient, silent, and obsessed with control. They had ruled the galaxy not through war, but through symmetry. They believed in balance. Order. Predictability. And humanity was none of those things. We learned too fast, Lisa said. Adapted too quickly. Spread too far. She showed Vex a dying planet, a lifeless world, its atmosphere long gone. Earth, before the transformation. They couldn't exterminate us. The other species would resist. So they re-engineered a solution. They terraformed the dead world. Made it livable. Beautiful. A perfect cage. Then they erased all records of humanity's true origin. They destroyed our ships. Our archives. They dropped us onto that world with nothing but instinct, and each other. Vex sat back. His throat was dry. "And yet you survived," he said, voice barely audible. Lisa smiled, but it was a warrior's smile. "We didn't just survive. We learned. We turned their prison into a fortress. Another hologram flickered to life, this one showing Earth's solar system in ways no foreign sensor ever could. Bases beneath Mars' surface. Cloaked satellites in Jupiter's orbit. Massive weapons disguised as comets, moons, even space dust. Every species that found us taught us something, Lisa said. The Corans taught us energy shielding. The Nexari showed us how to phase through matter. The Altarians gave us sensor technology. She looked at Vex. You gave us fleet tactics. Ship structure. Invasion protocol. Vex couldn't speak. His voice was locked behind the weight of revelation. But why so many invasions, he asked finally. Why do species like mine always come? Lisa stepped forward. Because the architects ensured it. They planted suggestions. Deep in your genetic structure. Not orders, impulses. An inevitable curiosity. A desire to expand. A hunger for one particular world on the outer rim. Earth. Holograms showed the paths of expansion from various civilizations over millennia, all converging on the same blue marble. You were engineered to find us, Lisa said. So we could be tested. And now? Vex asked. What happens now? Lisa turned to the window. Outside, children played in artificial daylight. They didn't know their world had once been a prison. They only knew it as home. Lisa answered with quiet conviction. Now, the test is over. Your invasion, your defeat, proved we have evolved beyond what the architects feared. We are no longer prisoners. A knock at the door. Colonel Ray Parker entered, flanked by 2 officers. General Vex, Ray said with formal authority. In 1 week, a human delegation will stand before the Galactic Council. We will announce our return as a sovereign species, free, independent, and equal. Vex's eyes widened. They'll never accept you. Not after what you did. Ray gave a small smile. After what we did. They'll have no choice. Elsewhere, across a dozen systems, human ships emerged from folded space. They did not come to conquer. They came in peace. With knowledge. With purpose. Ambassadors. Scientists. Explorers. The galaxy watched with wary awe. On Earth, Dr. Lisa Grant stood aboard the Enterprise, humanity's newest and most advanced starship. Through the viewport, she looked down at the blue and white world that had kept their secret for 50,000 years. Jake Morrison, now the ship's captain, joined her at the window. Do you ever regret leaving? He asked. Lisa shook her head. Earth was always our home. But it was never meant to be our cage. The Enterprise turned gently toward the stars and disappeared into faster-than-light travel. Behind it, more ships launched from hidden bases, some from beneath oceans, others from the crusts of moons. Earth had never been primitive. Earth had been preparing. 3 days later, Ambassador Keth received a transmission. It was broadcast on all galactic frequencies. Humanity announces its intention to join the Galactic Council as a free and independent civilization. We seek peaceful relations with all species and mutual cooperation in matters of trade, exploration, and knowledge. Signed, Director Peter Kane, United Earth Government. Keth's hands shook. He had tried to warn them. Now Earth was not a whisper in the dark. Earth was speaking loudly.